Leadership is something that only happens when you are in a retreat or where you are in a cave. So it's something that happens outside this world. And what I like about spirituality, it's the dimension of being very practical.
How has that been for you on your journey? Has your view of spirituality and its practicality shifted?
I saw a presence and there was a message and say, convert my beloved. Now, it was a very simple statement that it felt really strong inside of me, like a deep truth I very rarely share in the outside world. It went all against everything that I have thought about spirituality. And since then, it's been very, very close to my heart and I still use it. Am I ordinary enough?
Welcome to the Spirituality in Leadership podcast. I'm Andrew Cohn. Spirituality in Leadership is a platform for conversations with leaders at all levels about bringing our spiritual dimensions to our leadership, our teams, our workplaces, and all areas of our lives in order to achieve greater success and fulfillment and build and sustain healthier organizations. If you'd like to connect with me to talk further about these topics and or about individual or team coaching, leadership workshops, or team alignment, please go to my website, lighthouseteams.com. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome back to the Spirituality and Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Cohn, and I'm really happy to share this conversation with my friend and colleague, Marcos Cajina. Marcos is born and raised in Madrid, Spain, has deep experience consulting to and advising leaders in the corporate world in a variety of roles, beginning his career in corporate human resources for the Ford Motor Company in several locations in Europe. And what I appreciate about this conversation with Marcos is that he really is a student of spirituality as well as a student of leadership in a very, very practical way. He talks very easily about things that might be called spirituality. Actually, he uses the term spirituality very directly, and it's practicality. And as Marcos says, business is very practical. Business is nothing if not very practical. And so to the extent that spirituality, the way he describes it, is extremely practical, it's very useful in leadership and it's very useful in business. He talks about how he came to seeking around spirituality through practicing martial arts. He talks about, as he calls it, a scientific approach to spirituality, testing things, using what works, letting go of what doesn't. What Japanese archery has taught him about making spirituality practical. He talks about several laws of spirit as he describes them. The first is acceptance, not to be confused with resignation. The second is cooperation. How can I be more cooperative with myself, aware of myself, and also be more cooperative with others? And he also talks about another spiritual law of understanding. And his point, I think, and this is very interesting, he talks about how action comes before understanding. As he put it, understanding, just like motivation, comes after action. So he said in business, for example, leaders need to take action with incomplete information. Leaders need to be risk takers to some degree. We need to move, and then we can understand, was this a great decision? We need to take action. Very, very important. We can't wait until everything is clear and we understand everything. I thought that was a really, very interesting practical learning tidbit there. He talks about compassion. As he said, can I bring compassion to my own stupidity? And compassion is a key leadership competency with both ourselves, being compassionate with ourselves and with others. And related to compassion, we talked near the end of the conversation about the role of loving and the variety of expressions of loving in the business space, including supporting other people and coaching and a variety of caring actions towards others, as well as being willing to receive and to learn from others and to receive the support of other people. And as Marcos said, and learning to make leadership really a team sport. So there's a lot of wisdom in this conversation, simple wisdom, practical wisdom, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to the Spirituality in Leadership podcast. I am really excited to have my friend and colleague Marcos Cajina with us today. Marcos is representing his native Spain. Thank you for being our first Spaniard on the podcast, but not the last. There's several already in the queue. But thanks for being with us. And we've known each other a while in some different capacities, in different ways. But when I thought about a conversation about the intersection of spiritual dimensions of human beings and leadership, I thought Marcos is on the short list. So what I'd love to do first is, so you are consultants in the leadership space for many years. Before that, you were an HR leader at the Ford Motor Company. Was that in Madrid?
I was in Madrid and also at the European headquarters.
European headquarters, which was where?
It was in England.
Ah, okay.
Right close by to London.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool. So you've been in the corporate space, you've been in the leadership space as a consultant and executive coach. You've worked in executive education on several fronts, including where I've done some work at Wharton, at Aresti, or if it's still called Aresti. And I'm just so grateful to have you on the show here. And what else about your history and experience relates to spirituality in leadership that I haven't mentioned already?
Well, first of all, it's a great privilege to be with you, Andrew. And my greetings to viewers and listeners to this podcast. It's a great question because it seems that leadership is something that only happens when you are in a retreat or where you are in a cave. So it's something that happens outside this world. And what I like about spirituality, it's the dimension of being very practical. And by practical, that's the sharing point with business. In business, we are obsessed with, is this going to be practical? Is this going to give me a return? Is this going to help me achieve my goal? What else do I need to do in order to overcome a perceived obstacle? So spirituality has that dimension, being practical. Something that I can do something with it. I can bring it to the world right now, whatever I am, in this meeting, in this conversation with a peer, delivering feedback. How can I bring that dimension that is always present into what I do in business? So for me, without that practicality, it wouldn't attract me. It would be something that it wouldn't be of interest to me.
And for you, in the course of your background, personal history, to the extent that you're comfortable sharing it, has spirituality always been about practicality, or is that something that just has come to you in the last more recent decades? How has that been for you on your journey? Has your view of spirituality and its practicality shifted?
That's also a great question. I started doing martial arts when I was 6 years old. And I was a fan of David Carradine and Kung Fu and you name it. So I wanted to be...
Wait, was that from Spain? No, was it?
Yeah. I wanted to have superpowers. I wanted to do all the jumps and kicks and that I was watching on tele. So I started to do a lot of martial arts because I was after the superpowers. And I read up the Siddhas and the Siddhis and the great masters. They can bilocate and they can do this. And psychic readings. And I was fascinated by that side of spirituality. But then I soon discovered that, what's the big deal? What's the big deal of jumping and kicking and, bilocating and, I want something more practical, something that I can use on a daily basis. And for me, the turning point was the definition of one of the spiritual leaders that I respect very highly and became my teacher, that he says, ordinariness is the entry to the kingdom of heaven. Be ordinary. Now, that goes against everything that I read. Everything that I had read was all about superpowers and, you can be in a cave without eating for 2 years and the rest of it. And here comes a man that says, it's just being ordinary. That really opened up the door for me to understanding that approach to spirituality rang a bell inside of me.
Some part of you knew that was true. It was true for you.
Yeah. Being ordinary, being just who I am. So that really was the shift. It wasn't that someone woke me up in the middle of the night. I saw a presence and there was a message and say, yeah, convert, my beloved. Now, it was a very simple statement that it felt really strong inside of me, like a deep truth that very rarely share in the outside world. And it went all against everything that I have thought about spirituality. And since then, it's been very, very close to my heart. And I still use it. Am I ordinary enough?
Well, and I'd love it. I mean, if I could just probe a little bit. So ordinary, when I hear ordinary, and I have heard that said before, that expression, and ordinary to me means almost like universal, almost like common. Is that how you understand it? And it also there may be a language thing too, is some subtleties on that. But what do you understand ordinary to mean in terms of its power?
For me, what it means is that, and I'm talking for myself, okay? For me, is dropping this urge I had to be special. So I was running against a fantasy. I want to be special. Because I have achieved so much, right? Look at my worth in how much money I've got in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to know because I've got 2 Ferraris back in my garage. The moment I accepted ordinariness, the only way forward was to be myself. And being myself may seem like a ridiculous idea. Like, of course you are yourself. Well, maybe I'm the slowest student on the planet because discovering who I am, accepting who I am, appreciating myself just as I am, striving to be better, and yet accepting who I am and embracing my own humanity turned out to be far more challenging than what I thought.
A full-time job.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that in business, we strive to be Superman, we strive to be Superwoman. We don't give ourselves the chance to take care of ourselves. We're always on the go. We don't give ourselves permission to stop and restore energy. It's just on the go, 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 go. And I remember Stephen Covey many years saying, what's the point of running up the ladder in business to discover at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall?
Beautiful.
And it made a lot of sense to me. I mean, I do want to do a good job, but that's part of being ordinary. But what am I pretending to be who I'm not? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to pretend? Why am I afraid of being vulnerable? What stops me from generating safety around me? Why do I need to compete or overcompete? Why is it that I want to prove myself better than other people? All those questions started a quest and a journey which I call practical spirituality. Is this practicality of asking doable questions that allows me to accept who I am and to be myself, which again seems very easy, and at least for me, it's not that easy.
Well, it sounds like it's a whole life's journey, it doesn't end. These types of questions, and I'm also hearing, that the way that your awareness to your consciousness is full of questions, is full of how do we make the best of this precious life? This is not going by unbeknownst to you. This is something that you are squeezing every drop of. That's what I'm hearing or experiencing from you. So I really appreciate that in those questions. So one thing that comes to mind for me in listening to you in that acceptance and ordinariness focus, for lack of a better term, is how that could potentially be in conflict with the work in the business world that you do and have done your whole career that is about goals and more and growth and pushing as a function of business, not as a function of development and awareness and an individual spiritual path, whatever that is. We don't even try to define that. But I wonder if there might sometimes be a tension between the acceptance and the ordinariness and universality, which is about really more about the present and about growth and pushing and numbers and goals and driving, which is so future out there oriented. Am I making sense in terms of the potential conflict there? And how do you manage that?
Before I answer that question, allow me to go back to something that you mentioned, which is the scientific approach to spirituality. Yes, that's the approach I have to spirituality. I want to be a spiritual scientist. Mm-hmm. So I check things out. I recheck things out. I go inside. I recheck things out. I use what it works. And when it doesn't work anymore, I have the wit to let it go. And then I embrace what's next. So that's why I call it a very scientific approach. Mm-hmm. I want to go through the experience. I don't want anyone telling me what to do, or I don't want anyone preaching down to me. I just want to discover things for myself. I want to test things for myself. I want to go through the experience, which doesn't mean that I don't go out and ask for support when I think I need support. Of course, that's part of being ordinary. Mm-hmm. I need support like anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I just want to clarify that it's a very practical thing. And for me, it has the dimension of being a spiritual scientist. Now, in responding to your question, it's a paradox. For about 11 years, I've been doing traditional Japanese archery, which is all about hitting the target without the willingness or the intention of hitting the target.
Okay.
One of those Zen paradoxes. Mm-hmm. But I hit a target without releasing an arrow. So it's a very interesting experience. Because I remember when I was starting doing this martial art, that I became obsessed and self-judgmental because I was not hitting the target. I said, what's wrong with my technique? What's wrong with me? Why is it taking me so long to hit the bloody thing? And the more I struggle with that, the less I would hit the target. Now, the interesting thing is finding that sweet spot where you are so centered, you are in such place of deep, how could I phrase this, deep you, without trying to strive, without the ambition of hitting, that yes, I have experienced the arrow releasing itself and surprising myself hitting the target. And then you go into, how did that happen? I want to do it again. And then you're back into the mess because now you bring your head and you try to do it and it won't work. So how do you hit the target without trying to hit the target is a way of making that spirituality very practical. Because I see this in business where people are trying too hard. They are under so much stress that in itself becomes an impediment to high performance. When I see the military, or I see a soprano, or I see a virtuoso on stage, or I see tennis, I love tennis, and you see these top players, I see elegance, I see effortless, I see grace. So my question is, what did they do to achieve that place of grace and flow, as some of the psychologists call it? How can I recreate that more and more in my life such that I have high performance at a very elegant way? Now, did they get there by chance? No, hours of sweat, training and training and training. But something through that training shifted. that gave them the ability to high perform under high stress and high pressure. You know, when you watch a final of Roland Garros or any one of their four Grand Slam, there are millions of people watching you.
Mm-hmm.
There's thousands of people watching you. You know, the press is going to comment on your performance. And yet, you see these phenomenal players that, yes, they've got the technique. Yes, they've got the stamina. Yes, they've got the endurance, the flexibility, the strength, the resilience. Everything is there. And yet, we get to see the magic. And that magic is what I think is the connection between business and spirituality. There's a place where you can actually hit the target without trying to hit the target. And the mind cannot comprehend that. It's an experience. So when I watch the interviews of these top players that they've done this phenomenal match, they don't analyze. They can't explain it. No, I was in the flow. I was in the zone. I was in a place that, you know, it just came out. It was a great delight. And I just want to thank everybody because it's been a great experience. Well, I want more of that. I want to know how you did it. I want to go to that place. So that's the scientific in me trying to replicate this. And hopefully the metaphor of the example of me releasing an arrow to hit a target without wanting to hit the target, every time I experience that, immediately after, my brain says, well, how did we do that? Let's do it again. And then, you know what? The next few hours, I keep missing the target. Don't you simple experience, yet it's very difficult, at least for me, to expand it. But I hope it's landing well.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's very clear. And I have two thoughts about it. One is to use the example of tennis and it coming together. It's so much intensity without effort. As I hear it, and perhaps if that's where the spirituality is coming up, maybe that's why we always start with love in tennis. A little joke, but you understand. We always start at love, and the expression that's coming up to me is something that one of my teachers taught me years ago, which is a high commitment with low attachment. It's the attachment that gets us into trouble. I remember, if you've read Dan Harris's book 10% Happier. What's the difference? Well, how can we do mindfulness and how can it help us? Because mindfulness brings us to this place of levelness and calmness, and we can strive and strive and strive, but we're not attached. It's the attachment that can often just hook us, leads to burnout, etc.
So let me build on that. I think, Andrew, you're hitting the nail. Because when it comes down to spirituality, one of the first laws of spirituality is acceptance. And everybody goes ballistic when they hear acceptance because they link that to resignation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you just said is, I strive for this, I fell short, I've got two options in life. One, self-inflicted judgment, self-harsh talk, put myself down, hyper-analyze, open the door to the imposter syndrome, bring the perfectionist inside of me, flagellate myself because I fell short, or accept that you fell short, learn from it, course correct, no drama. That's it. So when I work with senior executives, I see a lot of self-flagellation. I'm falling short. I'm not competitive. I'm not going to sustain my leadership. They're just not very friendly with themselves. They're really tough on themselves. And what I keep saying is, listen, learn from the experience, course correct, accept that you made a mistake, don't add any drama, keep rolling. And they say, well, it can't be that simple. I've learned that I need to flagellate myself. I need to punish myself. Well, you know what? That is not the first law of spirituality. The first law of spirituality is accept yourself. Accept it. Yeah, I made a mistake. So what? Heal the deal. Course correct. Learn from it. Move on. Now in business, we call that agility. Be agile. Now, the next spiritual law is cooperation. Cooperation is befriend yourself. What do I need to develop? Or what do I need to let go? What does the situation call for? I'm in cooperation. So that's hopefully 2 examples of very practical spirituality, because this happens every day in my life. I don't need to go to a cave to practice acceptance. I don't need to go anywhere else to practice cooperation. It's right here, right now. It's in I'm washing the dishes or anything. I can drop a dish, say, oh my God, I'm going to be for 3 days flagellating myself. So you know what? That's what I call very practical.
Extremely practical.
So how do I bring more cooperation? Everybody's dying for more collaboration at work. So what do I need to let go? What do I need to accept? How can I include others? How can I be more patient? How can I be more caring? First with myself and others. Big questions. Check it out. Be a scientist. Bring that into the business.
And as I hear you describe moving from the first law of spirit acceptance to the second law of spirit cooperation is moving from what's so to now what?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's it. And the funny thing is that the third law, it's understanding. And this is one of the tricks, like in motivation. Motivation comes after action. Is I don't want to go to the gym. But the moment I start moving towards the gym, I started to feel the motivation. But if I'm waiting on the couch to feel motivated to get my butt off the chair and go to the gym, it's not going to work very often. I'm going to find all sorts of excuses, rationalization, justifications to, I'm too tired. I don't want to go to the gym. So motivation comes after action. And the same thing comes with understanding. Understanding comes after participation. Oh, I get it. I understand. That makes sense. I need to be in the action. Now, isn't that business? We are in the action. Executive comes from Latin, executare, which basically means to execute, to do, to carry things out. So I see another connection. If I want to understand, I have to act. I have to go through the experience. Then I understand. Oh my God, now I understand it. So there we go. The third law of spirituality. Again, very practical.
But to be willing, I see the challenge in many of my clients, to be willing to act without understanding. Essentially, you're talking about risk-taking, and you're talking about acting with incomplete information, which is what leaders have to do. What do leaders do? They act with incomplete information, right? You make a decision based upon what you know. You act upon what you know. I may not even understand what the result's going to be, but we act first so that we can have enough exposure, feedback, etc., and then understand. And then do we double down or do we change course or something like that? Yeah.
And guess what? In business, there's such high fear of making mistakes. Why? Because if I make a mistake, my identity, my self-worth is attached to what I achieve. So if I fail, ergo, I must be incompetent. I may not be worthy of the promotion. And then, because of that and the shame that I feel, I'm going to play the game of pretending. And now I'm playing the game not to lose, instead of playing the game to win. And then we get caught in the defensive and the protective and the pretense and the being politically correct and all those games that clearly are not going to take us to where we want to go. But if we accept that this is it, we made a mistake, no drama, course correct, that's it. And then only then, you can understand. The same thing when I was in other martial arts, I would do a movement without any success. And it took me a lot of repetitions to finally get it. Oh my God, I'm not moving the bloody thing this way. So therefore, no wonder it's not going to work. But if anyone explained that to me first, my mind would start going into analysis and say, well, I don't think that's going to work. And it's only theory. I need to go through the experience. Some mothers, they know this. I mean, man, we would not have a clue what it means to give birth. We can read a book, we can watch 25,000 Netflix series, and no, it only takes going through the experience for a woman to know, this has been my experience, I know what it means, and it could be a very different experience to Susan or to Patricia, who also gave birth, but they went through other circumstances and situations. So even though the concept idea and the simple idea of giving birth, I don't think two women would actually went through the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them know what it means to give birth.
For themselves, in their own way. Mm-hmm.
Now, the same applies in business. We go through this process and another team goes through that process. Now we share best practices and worst practices. You went through that. I went through this. So, understanding comes after participation.
Mm-hmm. Understanding comes after participation. And what I'm hearing consistently is drama is optional.
Drama is optional. Tragedy is another option. Comedy is another option. You can choose to cry. You can choose to laugh. You can choose to make this a catastrophe. We've got the freedom to choose how we respond. I can be really upset with myself because I missed the target, or I can just recenter myself and continue to challenge myself and support myself. Okay, so what else do I need to do in order? But what's the purpose of the drama? What's the purpose of the? And I'm very good with drama. I'm not innocent. I come from Spain, so we love drama. So we make a big fuss of nothing. And sometimes it's a lot of fun. We make drama, but is it effective? Is it bringing the things that I want? So, I can be angry and I can use that energy to change. I can feel guilt and use that energy for my advantage. Does drama work for me? No, not really. Has it been fun sometimes? Yeah, it's been fantastic to share drama with other Spaniards and other people. Say, let's make the end of the world, doomsday. And
it's entertaining.
It's entertaining, but does it really work? No, at some point I need to let that go. And at some point I need to accept that I need to correct, I need to learn, I need to do something with this. The moment I accept it and I go, okay, I'm going to do it again, then the insight comes in and says, that's what I was missing.
And as I hear you describe this, the way it's so beautifully integrated, would it be accurate to say that to move through challenges in the way you're discussing, to accept, to improve, to participate, to then understand, etc., is a spiritual journey, an application of spiritual principles?
That's it. It's the application, the practicality, holding this scientific mind, testing things out, checking things out. How can I improve the way I'm doing things? Can I support myself? Can I be kind on myself? Can I bring self-compassion by my own stupidity? Can I accept myself just as I am? Once again, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's really a nightmare because, but I just missed again. So, okay, so take a deep breath. What do you need to do different? What different thing you need to do? And you know what? We humans, we love to build our comfort zones. And then we become prisoners of our comfort zone. And then we surprise ourselves doing the same thing, expecting to get a different result. And I say to my clients, well, if you keep on doing the same thing, do you think you're going to get a different result? Or they say, yeah, maybe one day. Well, call me.
But to do something different involves risk, uncertainty, fear of failing. If I fail, I'm back to the self-flagellation game, and it's just too scary to try something different.
Exactly. Exactly. So compassion is an executive function, is an executive competency. It's on the books. I've done 360 degrees reports where compassion is there. And I'm fascinating to see how leaders overlook compassion very rapidly, even though it's part of the 12 top competencies, and they go straight to participative management or leading people or whatever. And then I always, after the conversation and all that, which is always very valuable, I say, what about this one over here? Well, I don't see the value in being self-compassionate. I don't see the value of this. Well, okay, sure. What's the value of flagellating yourself? What's the value of not supporting your peers? What's the value of you growing without support? How far could you, or if you knew that everybody in your team is unconditionally supported for your success, would that make any difference in your life if you knew that? Think about that for a second. What would you dare to do if you knew that everybody in this team is unconditionally supported for your success? What would you dare to do? Would that change the game? I think it's a very powerful question.
It would redefine the game. It's beautiful.
What would you dare to do? The answer that I found to that question is I don't have a clue. I don't even know what my limit is. I don't even know what my potential is. But what I do know, and I suspect that if I knew certainly that everybody in this team is unconditionally supporting for my success, that two things will happen naturally. One, I would really dare to do the unthinkable. Two, I would reciprocate. You support me, I support you. Now we've got a very positive virtual cycle where we are supporting each other and accelerating our own growth rather than just limiting ourselves and going backwards where everybody's so scared and unsafe that we're just protecting ourselves. And that's a choice we've got. So when I accept the other one, we call it now in business inclusion. Inclusion means I need to accept you just as you are in exchange of don't harm me. That's the only thing. I'm only asking you, the social exchange is don't harm me. I will accept you. And the moment you feel accepted, why would you want to harm the other person? You just got what you wanted, to be accepted. So I've heard that diversity is a fact, inclusion is a choice. We're not clones. Everybody's different. Now, the challenge is inclusion. And that takes us back to the first law of spirituality. Acceptance. Can I accept you just as you are? Well, humanity, we seem not to be very good at that lesson.
Yeah, long history in that, yes.
And we're still learning that lesson. Well, there we go. First spiritual law. We're still struggling with that. We're starting to go into the second one, cooperation. We only have one planet. Would it be worthwhile taking care of it? What do we need to do to cooperate and take care of the planet? That changes the game. Cooperation. Maybe one day we understand what's the purpose of life as an experience rather than as a concept or philosophy. And maybe some of the masters were absolutely right. Love each other. Simple as that. How practical could that be? Very practical. It's an action. It's not a noun. It's a verb. Am I loving? What does that mean? Could I love someone?
And how does that, I feel this is leading to an interesting place, and interesting isn't even the right word. That sounds mental. It's more than that. And what's the role of loving in business? Because that's where this is evolving, as I hear it.
Well, the first thing, it's we need to know what loving means and expressions of loving. So maybe loving is an act of generosity, sharing information, supporting someone, coaching someone, sharing information with someone.
All of these are ways of giving to someone in support, in caring action. That's what I'm hearing.
And at the same time, be open to be helped, be open to receive support, be open to make this a team sport. You grow, I grow.
You know, it's interesting. I just want to put a mark in this. What you're defining is one element of loving is to be open. So it's not just loving, giving, sharing, supporting, donating, contributing. It's being open to the reciprocal, to allow that to happen.
That's it. It's a give and take. It can receive.
Beautiful.
At the end of the day, there are three kinds of people in the world that I see: the makers, the takers, and the fakers. The fakers, they pretend to know what they've done. The takers are everything for me and I accumulate, it's egocentric. And the makers. And this part of the makers is that this intention of bringing the highest good, working for the collective, serving others, but not depleting themselves. It's just bringing the abundance of give and receive. So we make it happen. We create abundance. We create peace. We create fellowship. We create whatever it is. It's a give and take, give and receive. Now, the fakers, it's all about faking, popularity. And it's not surprised that in the world we see fake news all over the place. We fake, we distract, we pretend, we play politics in the negative way. And then, of course, are the takers. The definition of success is that I accumulate and I get the monopoly and that's it, game over, I have it all. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you're not going to make lots of friends because you've got it all. And when I look at in nature, my brain doesn't have all the energy. My body needs to share its fair amount of energy throughout the body. Scientists say that the brain takes 20%. I think it was the liver that take another 20%. Okay, so be it. But if my brain took 100% of my energy, I don't think I'd be alive. This just doesn't make any sense.
You'd be really smart for 10 minutes and then you'd die or something like that.
That's it. That's it. So I've got everything now, and now I'm at the top of the world, and now I'm dying. Mm-hmm. So, so hopefully that gives a little bit of the practicality. I go back to this because that's the message I want to put across.
It's a beautiful message, and I appreciate this conversation. I'm sure we could continue it for hours. In fact, I would like that. And I just so appreciate the movement from the zen of archery to the elegance of tennis to the subjective but very real experience of childbirth. It's all part of the conversation. It's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate the inclusiveness of the conversation, and to be continued. And just in the interest of a reasonable length podcast, I'd love if we could close this here. Where do people look for you if they want to connect with you and want to learn more about what you do and more about what you teach, Marcos?
My website is renewalcompany.com. So you can access the website, and then if that catches your attention, you can always write to me. I'm info@renewalcompany.com. So basically what we do, our mission is healthy people in healthy organizations. It's as simple as that. Health is a sign of ordinariness. It's natural. That's my natural state. I'm healthy. So we help people to become healthy, teams, organizations. So we want to transform the way people work and bring a little bit more of joy and well-being into high performance. So we reconcile both things.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your time. And I just feel like I think the mark of a good conversation is the want of more. And I certainly want more, and I suspect that those listening are going to want more as well. So thank you, and good to see you.
Thank you, Andrew, for the opportunity. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to Spirituality in Leadership. If you want to access this wealth of knowledge and insight on a regular basis, please subscribe to the show. Join the network of leaders who want to do and be better. You can go to the site spiritualityinleadership.com or your preferred podcast platform to catch all the episodes and learn more. Until next time, take good care of yourself.